Okay, great. So welcome to the inaugural meeting of the zoning bylaw subcommittee. We have a a short time frame to work within, and this committee will probably disband in September, because Tom Callahan wants all of our suggestions by the middle of September so that he can incorporate them into the town warrant. So we don't have a lot of time. We've got, 4 months. So I figured if we meet once a month and we just have tasks laid out for each month, we should be able to do it. And it's not that much. I think, and we can talk about this, but I think the best way to go about it might be for me to create a Google Doc with, spaces for various wind bylaws that we can find from other towns in Massachusetts and also around the country, and just find the best standard we can, and then work with Tom to just fine tune what he has. So anyway, I was hoping that Doran would be here so that we could introduce ourselves to him, but let's just go ahead. Oh, do you see him? Okay.
He just joined us.
Ah, great. Hi, Doran.
There he is.
Hello.
Hi, sorry, thanks. Just getting my video here. Apologies, I hit on the wrong link and then I walked away to plug in my phone and then realized that I was on the main meeting for tomorrow and not today's meeting. Sorry about that.
Oh, no.
Hi, everyone.
We're just so glad you're here. Thanks for joining us.
Sure thing. No problem at all.
And the AEC, it's going to be great to have you on it. So I think
no, I'm excited.
we were just going to introduce ourselves to you really quick. I think Tom and Chris and I are all relatively new to the committee. So I'm Martha Jimmy. I joined not even a year ago, maybe last summer. And I'm just a citizen with a interest in conservation. What about you, Tom and Chris?
Yeah, Chris Adlifson. Oh, go ahead, Tom.
No, go ahead.
Yeah, Chris Adlifson here. I've been on the committee for almost 2 years, and delighted you've joined us, because I think you have more experience than any of us in the actual space. And so thanks. Look forward to working together.
And I'm Tom Daly. I'm, a year now, just about. And I retired from Boston University as the VP of Facilities and Sustainability. So I'm in it up to my neck.
Right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate the intros. And Tom, I think we met before on a meeting as well. So that rings a bell, the facilities angle of things. So
Yes.
Obviously when you're dealing with, sustainability and consumption reduction, like facilities angle is the one that you can actually see the equipment working and or not, right? As the case may be. So no, it's good. All right, I'm apologizing for the noise. So I'm Doran Hull. I'm professionally Chief Financial Officer at Amoresco. I've been with them for just about 5 years. That's a kind of, energy efficiency and renewable energy company that operates in the region as well as nationally. Prior to that, I was, running a solar development business for a Chinese company, kind of throughout North America. And then that was kind of following, I'll call it a credit-based banking career. I spent most of my career in New York and in the surrounding areas. The last several years of that in the kind of 2010 and beyond, I worked on a lot of transactions and financings across a number of different renewable energy spaces, right? So residential solar to commercial and industrial to a little bit of wind and everything in between. So I am hopeful that I can bring bring a little bit of industry expertise to the table, but even more so, I'll definitely try to tap my network a bit here to help us as we move into taking some action on some of these items. So anyway, great to meet you all. My wife and I moved to Cohasset actually for the first time in 2021. That's when I discovered the committee, the existence of the committee. And then we rented a house in town for about a year, and then now we've more permanently settled in town just fall of 2022, and we're loving it. So like, it's a beautiful place, and it was one of those things where for the first couple of years of working for Amoresco, I was commuting back and forth to Connecticut, and I had an apartment. Our office is in Framingham, so we're nowhere near Cohasset. And I used to just drive around looking for where is that place where we're going to live. And we live near the water in Connecticut. And so finding the town it was a huge find for me. The one day when I drove through Cohasset, and I was like, oh, I think I found it. So it's great to be here.
It's funny how that happens.
Yeah,
I'll just add my professional background. I retired about a year ago as CEO of Independent Bank Corp and Rockland Trust Company, a $20 billion regional bank. And we didn't do a lot of financing in this area unless it was collateralized by something else. We didn't have confidence in understanding the cash flows in the industry enough. So if a customer wanted solar panels or wind, we look for other collateral. So you'll bring some expertise there that I don't have in finance. Thank you.
Great,
Yes.
Chris. Nice to meet you.
So yeah, thank you. Thanks everyone for all the for willing to be on the subcommittee and for all the expertise that you all are bringing. I'll just give you a little bit of background. In January, Tom Callahan came to the committee and wanted us to approve a draft bylaw he had done. He was trying to clean up all of the zoning bylaws and make them more streamlined and have them make more sense. And so he brought to our committee a proposed zoning bylaw for wind. And then he's also reorganizing it all so that he's moving them, the wind and the solar, separate sections into one sustainability section. So, but basically we looked at it and we freaked out a little bit and thought, we don't have the expertise to do this by ourselves. And we really can't just say yes to what he had proposed. We need to spend some time looking at it, understanding it, getting professional opinions on it. So that's what we're doing. So the proposed bylaw is going to the town meeting in October or November, but the language, our proposed language, needs to be to him by September 15th. So that gives us about 4 months to really fine tune what he's given us and make our own suggestions. So I was going to propose that we meet once a month and just have a work list, a work plan, and then a schedule for how we want to do things. So I gave you all the existing bylaws, Tom's proposed changes, the DOER's 2012 model bylaw, which is incredibly outdated and not really what we want to do. And then I included a model small wind energy bylaw that Tom had found. And then I also showed you some of the bylaws that I'd found from small towns in Massachusetts, which are all wildly different. Seems like the standards are all over the place. So it'll be really nice to have, Doran, your perspective. And maybe you can also find us someone who really understands these bylaws and how they should be drafted. So I'm thinking that my first thought, and you all can tell me that we want to do it differently, but I thought I would just put together a Google Doc that we could all work from and pull together. Maybe each one of us takes 5 bylaws and summarizes them in the Google Doc so that we can compare all the different, what's out there. And then, meet again in a month and see what we want to do next. Where do we want to go from there? Do we have an expert in the industry who could weigh in, or what we want to do? What do you all think?
I'll just give you my quick take in reading this stuff. I think finding the expertise is going to be pretty critical. I mean, I don't have near as much experience in wind as I do in solar or battery storage. So what would be helpful is to kind of tap that. And then the second piece is the nature of the language and how much we're trying to define what will be acceptable or not acceptable for the residential wind or the small scale wind, that kind of less than 500 kilowatt side of things. I think that it'll be a good idea for us to try to pull the, either installers or manufacturers of those types of generation facilities to actually see what's being installed. This is, as you say, the 2012 kind of guidelines don't really help because technology moves too fast. So really getting an understanding of what people are installing and make sure that we put something in place flexible enough to capture what might be changing in the industry, but also kind of really capturing the reality of what's being installed. So when you think about the size of a plot, what the setbacks need to be, what the height needs to be, I think it'd be useful for us to, I can try to find the manufacturers that are actually producing these things for applications in our region.
Great.
Because the specs change, right? Of course, depending on where you're installing, because of wind speeds and environmental, other environmental factors. So I think those are the two things that are probably going to be important as it comes to setting the standards. But I would say that having been through enough on the solar side again, permitting processes with local authorities in installing solar, the more flexibility that's built into the bylaws, the better, provided that you've got people on the board that are granting the permits, having sufficient expertise to understand it, right? And I think that for us as community members, maybe the boundaries are really like, what are we concerned about? Are we concerned about the visual? Are we concerned about what it looks like? Are we concerned about, the noise factors, which I think are a big thing for us to focus on. How much noise do these things actually make? Is 10 decibels cushion enough? Right? Or, because we don't want to put something in where no technology exists to satisfy the rules, right? Because then you're just looking for variances constantly, right? And that's just more work for the committee who's doing the approval, right? Those are my initial thoughts, just on stuff that we got to kind of look out for as we look through that. I'm very, very happy, Martha, to hear that we have this much time until September to really spend some time to figure this out. Yeah.
I would, oh, go ahead, Tom.
Go ahead. Okay. I think I think the thing that concerns me is the size. We need to get our hands around what size we're going to deal with. The new one in Hull, I think, is a 600 kW, and we all know how big that is. And if we're talking less than 500 kW, that could be $499. Nobody in Cohasset can put up a 499 kW. The lots aren't big enough, and you can't get it up high enough. So I think we really have to kind of get our hands around what size wind turbine we're talking about physically rather than electrically. What is the maximum blade diameter? What is, and then we have to differentiate between the standard blade ones that we're all familiar with and the vertical ones that may mount on a roof if somebody can stand the vibration in the house. I mean, those are all things we got it, but size I think is really important because in one of the laws I read, it was, I feel like I'm drinking from a fire hydrant, but one of them said you can't be more than 3 feet above the roof line. Well, I got news for you. Blades are going to hit the roof. It's not going to work.
Yeah. I mean, that's a great point.
I mean, we really got to get our arms around the size of the thing physically rather than electrically.
Yeah.
And I think the specs will come if we can get our hands on some of the micro turbine manufacturers and what the specs that they actually manufacture, what's their standard product look like, right? Because I think you're right, Tom. A house is not going to have a 500 kilowatt system. That's huge.
It's massive.
25 maybe, yeah,
Maybe
25
maybe
or,
5 or
or
10.
50.
Maybe 5 or
Yeah.
10. Yeah.
5 or
I
10.
think
Yeah.
that, I think what Tom was proposing was having anything greater than 500 kilowatts be regulated under the law, under the utility provision. And then anything else would be, say, from 5 to 15 kilowatts. And he was looking for what would be required for a multifamily development versus a single family home. And I haven't seen anything about that. So I don't know, but I think he was considering just not addressing anything between, say, 15 kilowatts and 500 kilowatts, which may be unreasonable too. But I think it would be great, like you said, to get the specs from the manufacturers to understand what people are putting in. And I think those little turbines that sit on the roof are really, they're not, they're bad for the house, they're bad for the roof. I don't think they're recommended. And then I don't know what if my neighbor next door put in a 150-foot tall wind turbine, I don't think I'd be very happy. I don't know how tall they have to be.
Well,
to-
if you're,
Oh,
if I think
yeah.
a 10 kW has, I'm trying to remember, is a 20-foot diameter blade. So you got to get it at least 50 or 60 feet in the air. I mean, that's 5 stories.
That's tall. Yeah.
And then you got to be able, it has to be able to rotate in all directions so that it can pick up the wind. Got to be above more than 3 feet above the roof line. It's a big undertaking.
Yeah. We got some work to do.
Hmm.
I think in Tom's draft, I think he had a very small number there in terms of the kilowatts, the
It was
rating.
like 5 to 15, but
5 to
Well,
15.
that's a good number.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
But those are
I think-
still not small units. Those are good sized units.
How
So, I
big
mean,
did you say those are, Tom?
I'll tell you in a minute. Just, I can't remember what I wrote down.
Yeah, I mean, I just have no idea. I was trying to visualize what that would be.
it strikes me to extend one of Doran's points that the vendors are going to be extremely familiar with some good bylaws, and also these questions we're raising now, because they're dealing with these questions all the time. I mean, if we want to install residential, what can we do and what we cannot do? So Doran, I think you sort of offered up a big time key to sort of some insight here.
Yeah, which is you can definitely put this on my list to track down who these vendors are, which ones are sort of actively installing in the area, because it could be that the economics, the demand might not be there, so the economics might not work. We're not really sure, right? And so if the product isn't something that people will be seeking out versus versus doing solar or something, then we don't need to address it
Right.
in our bylaws, right?
Yeah.
Yes, that's
The 10 kW is typically 8 to 10 feet, 8 to 10 meters in diameter.
in diameter.
Meters.
Wow. Okay.
That's an average of 3 different manufacturers. So
Okay.
we're not talking a small piece of hardware.
No, that's big.
Can I ask a question about, and for those of you who've been in town a lot longer than me and maybe been involved, like what's the town's approach to abutters and the kind of community engagement or prevention around, as you said, Martha, if your next door neighbor put one of these things up, then you're the one that's got to suffer through the visual, the noise, everything like that. What's the approach been as far as taking into account opinions of those in the neighborhood?
I think if you have to get a special permit or variance, the town, well, actually Montana probably knows. You have to, the town has to notify all the neighbors in a certain period of time, and there can be a meeting about it. But if you don't have to obtain a special permit, I don't think there's any redress. Is that right?
Yeah, Yeah, if you have to go in front of the planning board or ZBA, they're required to notify your abutters within a 300-meter, like 300-foot distance around your property. But like if you don't go against any of the bylaws, like it's just courtesy at that point that you're notifying your abutters. In terms of like public engagement on like topics like this, well, Debbie Cook, who's the co-chair of AEC, who you'll probably meet tomorrow night, she just started educational series to hopefully educate residents on topics like this, to engage them more of liking or just knowing what it is. Beyond that, AEC hasn't been doing much like in public engagement. That's not to say that they're not willing to, but like town doesn't do the best job at public engagement, just because it's like not a priority unless it's through a grant. Like the grants that I do, we try to include public engagement, but it's not necessarily alternative energy focused. It's more just like climate resiliency in general.
we should also add that these new zoning rules need to be approved by town meeting.
Right.
And
Yeah.
if we have sort of you can put a 60-foot pole up in your yard with diameters of 8 to 10 meters, I suspect the town meeting will not pass that.
I suspect you're right.
Is the town meeting approval, the town meeting, we thought this is gonna go in October, right?
Every November,
When
yeah.
when they put that up for vote, is that a all or nothing or line item or section or amendment by amendment? How do they organize the vote?
Well, you can propose amendments from the floor.
Okay. Got
That is a very cumbersome process.
Yep.
And sometimes the moderator will say, listen, this seems like awfully convoluted, blah, blah, blah. We need to shelve this and the committee needs to go back and do some work or something.
Right. Got it.
You're looking at a
Okay.
couple of the proposed submittals that we got. It's the setbacks for a tower that would carry one of these things. There are very few lots in Cohasset that you could actually do this on,
That's right.
because you have to worry about the tower falling and whether it's going to hit your neighbor's yard, all of that stuff. And I think it was 3 times the height of the tower was one setback I read. But we're talking pretty large lots to erect one of those towers, other than a vertical. A vertical you could probably do easier if you can get it up in the wind. But it has to be above the house or the house will block the wind.
Right.
Yep. I think that goes back to,
So-
making sure we understand the specs and what's even practical to install, right?
Well,
That's why it would be really good to
have.
have a manufacturer or an installer come out here and show us their wares.
I mean, to that point, I think maybe we need to sort of skinny down our aspirations and say this is for this is for folks who want to put a little wind power on their house that is not terribly intrusive. I think we'd be biting off too much if we went for 60-foot towers.
So
Yeah,
just
I agree,
keeping it
Chris.
to rooftop.
Yeah.
Which nobody would want to put on their house. They might put it on their freestanding garage or utility building. But yeah,
I think we could, because we got the time, if we can kind of track down the right folks, maybe we can do a little field trip, instead of having them come, we'll go travel to somewhere in the area where something like this has been installed, so we can actually get a visual on what it looks like, one that's operating, if it even exists,
yeah.
nearby.
Well, Doran, I hate to put everything on you, but if you could track down a few manufacturers that we could hear from and see,
Yep.
that would be really useful. I don't know if it's worth our time to dig into all the different bylaws until we know exactly what we're going to be dealing with. Does that make sense? Or should we go ahead and start doing the research?
Oh, I think that makes sense. One of the other things that might be interesting is understanding when we start thinking about setbacks and start thinking about these things, what is the art of the possible within the town? Average size of the lots, like how many lots would actually be big enough? You know, what percentage of the lots? And I think that's going to help us scope whether this is even necessary for us to put in the bylaws at all.
We do
Did
have
you
to
say,
remember
like,
the
quarter of
vertical
it?
ones.
No, for sure.
A 2.5 kW unit is about 4
Mhm.
meters in diameter and
Okay.
about 10 meters tower, a 10-meter high tower. That's a pretty small unit.
Wow.
10 meters, and then the diameter of the blades, that's basically
4 meters, 12
Um,
feet.
right, but the turbine itself is kind of like at the midpoint of that 4 meters, right?
And it's
Am I thinking about that right?
it's 6 feet. If it's a 12-foot diameter, the turbine hub is at 6 feet.
Right.
It's the diameter,
Yeah.
not the blade length.
And
Right.
the
The
top
diameter.
of
Yeah.
the blades would be sitting at 30 feet top high.
So the blades are basically 6 feet long.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's still really big for not a
Yeah.
lot.
That's a 2.5. That's
Yeah.
a 2.5.
That's a
You said,
2.5
Tom?
kW. Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Huh.
Right.
I suppose,
Yeah. No, you're saying that's big, and I'm just thinking about it. It's like it doesn't feel big to me, but that's only because like I've seen too many of the really big ones. So like it feels almost cute.
yeah.
So we can but let's I'll try to do some work to see who's manufacturing which kinds and which ones are selling in the area, what what's being installed, and then that will create some practical information for us to guide us toward what we really need to address here.
Okay. That's great.
Yeah, and the newer ones are smaller and more efficient. I mean, it's just
Mhm.
I think size is going to be the important thing here because of our lot sizes.
Mhm. Yeah, the town is divvied up into different sections with different zoning, but I'd say a good chunk of town is not quarter, 1 acre zoning. No, that's not right. You know what? I'll research that. Let me research that, and then that will actually shine some light on how pertinent this is. I mean, I could see one of those towers maybe on a 1 acre lot, 1.5 acre lot. But any smaller, it just seems large.
Yeah.
Especially
But
if
then
it,
there's the vertical turbines. Don't forget them. We have to figure out a way to get, and those they don't have the diameter that the blades have. So
yeah, okay. All right. Okay. All right. Well, I've got my marching orders. Doran's gonna find manufacturers. Maybe I'll just go ahead and start the Google Doc, and if you have spare time and feel like doing it, you could fill in some of the info. So what's a good time for people to meet? Is this a good time?
Generally for me, evenings are better.
Okay.
But that's just me. I mean,
Yeah.
I
I
apologize for
grabbed
meeting
this
during the
slot
day.
that's okay. I was able to block the calendar out. I'm at a conference, so I'm just like floating around. I'm sitting in our booth right now. just but I blocked out I just blocked out the time, and I can always do that. But in general, evening is easier for
Okay.
me.
Well, let's shoot for evening. And then I think because we have 4 people, we will have to have it. It's a public meeting, so it has to be recorded. There has to be an agenda, and Montana has to be present. So Montana, what are particular evenings good for you?
So I will make the announcement tomorrow night, but my last day in person will be May 23rd.
Okay,
But it's looking like I will stay remotely with you guys until June 30th. So once I hit June, like my evenings will be clear. I can't give you like a definite time at this moment, but like I'm assuming probably like Wednesday or Tuesday evenings will be good. In general, like most committee meetings happen in the evening. I just want to make sure you guys got one meeting between last meeting and like tomorrow night. And I've been like slammed with stuff, but once I sort my life out a little more, I can give you a better idea of which evenings will be best for you, for everyone.
okay, but does that mean, so you're leaving on,
May
So
23rd, but I think I'm gonna be contracted out, so I'll stay with you guys until like June 30th until I find someone else.
okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, well, good for you. What are you doing? Or can you not say?
No, it's okay. I'm just moving to New York City because I really want to move to New York City and I'm young. So
Good for
That's
you.
exciting,
That is
Montana.
exciting.
thank you.
Great
Yeah.
place.
I lived there for 20 years. Montana is awesome. I moved there when I was 23. It's a phenomenal place to spend those years.
Thank you. Yeah, I'm really excited.
Yeah,
My
that'll be really
boyfriend
fun.
and our lease is up in June and we were like, let's just take a leap to a new state. So here we are.
awesome.
You to Montana,
Thank
that's
you.
exciting.
Thank you.
That's great.
And I don't have a job yet. I'm just going to wait tables until I figure it out.
Yeah,
So,
you will find something fast, I'm sure.
thank
That's
you.
very
Yeah,
exciting.
for sure.
So I have other commitments on and off on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesdays. Not
Okay.
all of them. So Thursdays would be better for me, but
Okay.
as a for sure. And then the other days it'll be just a matter of figuring out which ones work and which ones don't.
Okay,
Is everyone able to understand how to use Doodle poll? Like, I know you guys were good this time. Like, I'll probably just do that in the future just because it's easiest for me to gauge when you guys are available.
great.
Yep.
Yep,
Okay.
that
Sounds
works.
good.
Okay, well, thank you all so much. It's so great to meet Doran and congratulations, Montana. And I feel like it feels good to have an idea of where we're headed.
Absolutely.
Yeah, thank you very, very much.
Can I ask a quick additional question? Solar zoning, is that on the plate too, or what?
Actually, it's a good point. I don't think they're changing anything to the solar other than moving things around, but because we're doing bylaws, we probably should just make sure that that's all that's happening and that it works. So yeah,
All right.
let me
There's
ask.
plenty of
you.
solar in town, and I haven't heard about any issues, so maybe it's okay. But just
Yeah, I think it's just organizational, but let me check with Tom Callahan to make sure.
okay, great.
All right, great. Well, thanks you all. See you in June.
Excellent.
We'll see you tomorrow
Michael.
night.
That's
Don't
right.
forget.
See you tomorrow.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thanks, Montana.
Okay. Have a good one,
Thanks
everyone.
all.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye,
all.
everybody.
Take care.